Hi everyone, I'm Trish Connor-Cato. Welcome to Analyzing Data with SQL Server Reporting Services, also referred to as SSRS. This video course is for those who will be the administrators of SSRS and who need to create dynamic paginated reports using the reporting tools. You'll also learn the SSRS administrative tasks during the course. When we begin the course, there is a Word document in the video description that I will review with you before we get started into the course. In this Word document, you'll find all the software requirements necessary to get your system ready for this course, as well as the links and instructions to download and configure software as necessary. Module 9 is geared toward extending and integrating reporting services. You'll learn how to extend the functionality of reporting services with expressions and custom code. You'll also learn the methods for working with reporting services programmatically. Modules 10 and 11 both cover mobile reports. Module 10 introduces the design and publication of reports that are intended for consumption on mobile devices. SSRS includes support for mobile reports, although the tools that are used to design and publish them are different than the tools used for paginated reports. And in Module 11, you'll learn about the element types that you can add to mobile reports, and you will design, publish, and learn how to access them. Although reporting services is a powerful tool, its built-in capabilities might not always meet your needs. This module covers the methods for extending the functionality of reporting services with expressions and custom code. You'll also learn about the methods for working with reporting services programmatically by creating custom assemblies using Visual Basic code. You don't need to know Visual Basic, as I will walk you through two separate short code blocks. So in this module, we have two lessons. The first lesson is about expressions and embedded code, and the second lesson will get into custom assemblies. So we've already used expressions during this course, and we'll use expressions in this section as well. In paginated reports, expressions are used throughout the report definition to specify or calculate values for a whole host of items, from parameters to bookmarks. There is a link to more expression uses in paginated reports there for you. In addition to expressions, SSRS allows us to add embedded customized code to a report in order to perform functions that may not be available or easily implemented in SSRS. The code which is embedded must be Visual Basic and allows for code reuse, which in turn may simplify report updates. So embedded code is created on the Code tab of the Report Properties dialog box and then referenced in an expression for the report object being impacted by the code. Embedded code can also be created in a class library, which enables it to be copied and pasted into any report. And in addition, you can save a report that has embedded code in it as a template, which you'll see in this lesson. We're going to get started by creating an expression in our drill through target report and report builder. Let's start by running this report. So if we look through the prices, what we want to set up is an expression that if the price is less than or equal to 100, we want the color of it to be red. If not, we want it to be green. So let's go back to Design View and get this set up. We're going to right-click the sum, the unit price field in the detail row, and we're going to go to text box properties. On the left side, we're going to go to font. Next to font color, next to color, we're going to click the function button. And notice it just has in there, it doesn't even have an equal sign, it just has the color. We're going to double click that and delete it. And we're going to type an equal sign in the set expression box. Now we're going to use the immediate if function here. So it's IIF is the name of the function. And then we need an open parenthesis. Now go ahead in the category pane and expand fields stock items so that our values list populates with the fields. And it'll save us on some of this typing. We're going to select unit price. And then we're going to type a less than equal to symbol and 100. So if that is true, type a comma, and in double quotes, type red. If that is false, type a comma, and in double quotes, type green. And then type your closing paren. So if the unit price value is less than or equal to 100, the font will be red. If not, the font will be green. Go ahead and click OK and OK. Now let's run the report again. So I see my unit prices that are less than $100 are showing in red, and the other less than or equal to 100 are showing in red, and the rest are showing in green. Pretty cool expression. Let's go back to design view and save. Now we're going to create another expression, and we're going to place it in the page footer for this report. And we're going to be making it a concatenated expression. We want it to say page 1 of 5, for example. So the actual page number and then the total number of pages. And we're going to use some globals fields. These are not like when we went into fields before in the expression box, we use the dataset fields. So globals fields are fields that can be used on any report regardless of the dataset. I'll just describe it that way. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to right click and add page footer. And then we're going to right click in the page footer and insert a text box. I'm going to move the text box to the upper left corner of that footer section and expand it. And then we're going to type equals, an equal sign, and then an open double quote and the word page. Type a space and then a closing double quote. After we get it all in, I'll go over it. Another space and the ampersand for concatenation. And then you're going to type the word globals, plural, an exclamation point, page number. So there is a global field named page number, and it's all mushed together. Another space and an ampersand and a space. Open double quotes, space, of, and we're going to do another space after of, close the double quote, an ampersand, and then we're going to type globals exclamation point again, and this time we're going to use the total pages field. So it's going to actually say the word page is in double quotes. That's literal text. So it's going to say page 1 of 5. Something like that, depending on the pages. And we can click on the edge of the text box, and now you'll see it just says expression in there, or the abbreviation for expression. And we're going to make it bold and 12-point font. Let's run this and take a look at it. And we're going to navigate to the last page and scroll down. And so at the bottom, you'll see page 3 of 3 based on that concatenated expression using two globals fields. And we can go back to design view and save. We're going to get started with embedded code in Visual Studio. And I already have our sales information VS project open. We're going to start with a small sample of Visual Basic code that will just display a simple message to the user. So what we're going to do is we're going to right-click on the Reports folder in Solution Explorer, hover over Add, and choose New Item. We're going to name this report Embedded Code. Now we're going to right-click in a blank area and go to Report Properties. And in Report Properties, on the left-hand side, we're going to click on Code. In the Custom Code box, you're going to type function, the word function, space, greeting, and open and closing parentheses, space, as, space, string. Now, when you're typing Visual Basic code in Report Properties code window, it's not like you're going to have a code editor available. So you have to kind of really know the structure and syntax of your code in order to do it this way. We're going to press Enter and then Tab, and we're going to type return, space, and in double quotes, hope you are having a wonderful day. Exclamation point, close the quotes, enter, and we're going to type end function. So we're creating a function procedure, which we're naming greeting, and its return is going to be a string, so text. And then we tell it what to return, that text, hope you're having a wonderful day. And then we have to have the end function statement or it won't work. Every function has to be enclosed between function and end function. So go ahead and click OK. So we put that code in Report Properties. In order to reference it in the report, we're going to right-click on the report canvas and insert a text box. And you can move the text box to the upper left and expand its width. You're going to right-click inside the text box and you're going to go to Expression. So we have our Expression window. And this is where we need to reference the embedded code. So after your equal sign, you're going to type the word code and the dot. So it's letting it know to look for embedded code. And we have to give it the name of the function, which we called greeting. So you're going to just type code dot greeting. And then you're going to, and it's typical to see red underlines in here because it's not a code editor. And we're going to click OK. So now the text box just says expression. Let's go ahead and preview the report. So just a simple message to the user, hope you're having a wonderful day. We created the code, the function procedure in Report Properties code page, and then we referenced the code in a text box expression. We can go back to design view. It's suggested that if you're going to write longer, more complicated blocks of code, or if you're not used to Visual Basic code language, that you create a class library project. A class library contains a code editor, so it will help you build your code blocks. And that's what we're going to do now. So we're going to leave this open. Let's just save. And I'm going to go to my search box and type Visual Studio. and I'm going to launch another instance of Visual Studio. When it launches on the bottom right, we're going to continue without code. And then we're going to go up to File, hover over New, and choose Project. So when we started, we created a report server project. That's what we've been working in this whole time. Now we're going to create a class library project. So in your search box, you can search for class library, and you get several results. Always be aware if there's a scroll bar on the right. All right? So we're looking for one that is suitable for Visual Basic, and there are a few of them that do include Visual Basic. So for example, the first one on my list does not have Visual Basic underneath it. It's for C#, and actually if you look at the icon, it has C# on it. The second one has Visual Basic, and it has VB on the icon. We want to scroll down until we see Class Library, and then in parentheses, .NET Framework after it. And we're looking for the one that has VB on the icon. So once you find it, click on it and then choose Next. We're going to name it Custom Code VB. That's what we're going to name this project. And we're going to click Create. When it launches, it opens up a class1.vb tab that is a code editor window. And that's where we're going to put our block of code. So the first thing I'm going to do in here is I want my font to be larger. So I'm going to go up to the Tools tab on the menu bar, and I'm going to go all the way to the bottom to Options. And in there, I'm going to do Fonts and Colors on the left side under Environment. And I'm going to change my font size to 14 in here and click OK. I'm going to click on the line. So it creates a class, okay? And it names it Class 1 by default, and you'll learn more about that a little bit later. But my insertion point is under that public class, Class 1 line, and I want to press Enter one more time. For me personally, when I'm coding, I like to have a blank line between the name of the thing, the framework, and conversely, when we get to the end of the code line, I'd like to have a blank line before end class. So we're going to create a function procedure, and after we get it typed in, I'll explain it to you. So we're going to type the word function, and because this is a code editor, it shows up on the list. I can stop typing and press Tab to get that word in there. And then I'm going to type a space, and I'm going to give it a name, and the name is going to be long date format. And then we have to give it parameters. So I'm going to type an open parenthesis, and it's going to give me the closing one and put the insertion point between the two of them. And in there, I'm going to type any date as the as keyword, and then date, and that also comes up on the list. So this function, the long date format, any date that we apply this function to will be formatted as a date. And then at the end of it, we're going to give it another declaration by using the as keyword again. And notice when we get to the end of it, there's only two things you can use outside of it, two keywords, as or handles. We're going to do as again and then string. Press Enter. Notice how it indents you. When we did this in Report Properties code window, I had us press Tab after we type the function line to get the indentation. We're going to type dim and then suffix as string and use the list as much as you can. Again, I'll go over this when we get done. Press enter twice. Now we're going to type select and then space case space day and then in parentheses any day, any date. After the parentheses, press enter and it gives you another indentation and it gives you the case keyword again. We're going to type 1, 21, 31, enter, suffix equals, and then in double quotes, ST. At the end of that line, press enter. And you're going to do Shift Tab here so you're at the same margin as that case 1, 21, 31 statement. We're going to type case space 2, space 22, enter, suffix equals, and then double quotes, ND. At the end of that line, enter and Shift Tab. We're going to type case again, or select it from the list, 3, 23, enter, suffix equals, double quote, RD. Enter at the end of the line and Shift Tab one more time. And we're going to do case and then the else keyword, enter, suffix equals, and in double quotes, TH. Press enter at the end of that line, and it gave us our end select statement. Actually, we don't need to do an enter there. We can just delete and then Shift Tab to get that end select to the same margin as select case. So when we did select case, it gave us the end select. Like when we came in here, right? When we did function, if you look, it also gave us end function. So the code editor really helps you out in building your code. After your end select statement, you're going to press enter twice, and then you're going to type return space format, open paren, any date, comma, double quote. And notice it gives you the closing double quote. You're going to type 4 small letter D's, space, and then a single small letter D, and then come outside of the parentheses, type an ampersand, and then suffix, space, ampersand, and then format, in parentheses, any date, comma, and a space. And this time we're going to do a set of double quotes, and we're going to type a space, 4 capital letter M's, a space, and then 4 small letter Y's. And honestly, the casing in here doesn't matter, so you didn't have to do capital M's. It won't hurt anything. So now come outside of that closing parenthesis and press enter. And then go to the end of the end function statement and press another enter. Okay, so we have our code in here. Let's go ahead and save. And let me break down what's going on here. Okay, let's review this function. So we named it long date format. We gave it a parameter as any date. And we gave that a data type of date. And then the long date format itself is in a string data type. We declared a variable using the dim statement. We named it suffix, and we assigned it the string data type. Then we did a select case construct. Select case is similar to if, then, else if, end if code. So it does multiple checks, and if the check is valid, it will apply the condition. So in this case, it's really saying we're putting the case statement on the day of any date, the day portion of the date. Case 1, 21, and 31, we want to give it a suffix of st. So if it's the 1st or the 21st or the 31st, that ends in st. If it's 2 or 22, it ends in nd. 3 and 23 ends in rd. And if none of those are true, whatever else it is would end in th. And then we end that select case construct. Then we tell it what the function is going to return. It's going to return a format. So any date, we want it to have a format of giving the full day of the week. That's the 4-letter Ds. The full name of the day of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And after that, we want it to have the number of the date. So the number of the day. So Wednesday, the 1st, for example, right? So the number of the day. Now, if we did the 1D, so the 1st through the 9th would only be one number. If we did 2Ds for that second one, it would pre-zero the single digits. So 01, 02, all the way up to 09. But we're doing 1D. We don't want the pre-zeroed on the single digit days. After that single digit, or after the digit of the day of the month, it's going to apply the suffix depending on what that number is, which we outlined in the select case statement. So if it's a 1, if it's the 1st of the month, it's going to apply the st suffix. If it's the 23rd of the month, it's going to apply the rd suffix. If it's the 4th day of the month, it will apply the th, which we captured in case else statement. And then the ampersand is the concatenation, so it's combining all of these things. And then we're going to concatenate another format, and that format is going to be for the full month, the 4-letter M's, and again, they don't have to be capitalized, and then the full year. If we did 2 M's there, we would get an abbreviated month. If we did 2 Y's there, we would get the last 2 digits of the year. And then we end our function. Now, our function is contained in this class known as class 1. Go ahead and save if you haven't. We'll be doing more work in our class library later, but for right now, what I'd like you to do is copy the code that we have here. We're not copying public class, class 1, or end class, just from function to end function. We're going to select it and then copy that code. And then switch back over to your other instance of Visual Studio where we have that embedded code report set up. We're going to right-click in a blank area and go to Report Properties and go to the Code tab on the left. And let's select our code that we typed in earlier, just delete it, and then paste in that function that we just created in our class library project. Now notice how it comes in All of the keywords are in blue. It's pasting in the result of it being created in a code editor window. Watch this. Click OK. And then right click again and go back to report properties, go back to code, and it dropped that code editor format. So it only shows when you paste it in there, but this is not a code editor, so it can't retain it. And we can click OK again. Now we're going to use the same text box that we created before. We're just going to right click inside of it and go to expression. And you can get rid of that expression. You can keep the equal sign, the code.greeting expression. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do equal, if you got rid of it, type equal, code.long date format. That's what we named the function. And then we have to pass it the argument for what date to use. And so that's where, after we did function long date format and parentheses, we said any date as date. Now we have to tell it which date to apply this to. So we're going to do an open parenthesis. And in the category pane, we're going to double click built-in fields. That's where your globals fields reside. And we're going to double click execution time. So it puts that up there in the appropriate syntax. And all we have to do is type the closing parenthesis. So we're saying apply that long date format that we created through a function procedure to the execution time field. And click OK. So now if you go and preview it, in our function code, we told it to give us the full day of the week, right? That was the 4-letter Ds. Give us the day of the month. Depending on the day of the month, put the appropriate suffix behind it. Give us the full name of the month and the full year. And we can go back to design view. So now I'm going to show you how to save code as a template. It's actually saving the report that contains the code as a template. So we're going to just delete this text box here that's referencing the code, because the code is stored again in report properties on the code window. So the code is stored in the report definition. Let's save. And I'm going to use the X to close the embedded code report. So now we have to use Windows Explorer to navigate to the directory where the reports are being saved to on your system. So I have my window open, and this is where you need to navigate to, because remember, all our VS stuff is in that source repos folder. So navigate to that folder, and you'll see all of your reports in there, as well as their RDL files. So we're going to right click on embedded code report and copy it. The next place you need to navigate to is this path at the top that's highlighted, and I expanded it so you could see the full path. So you need to navigate to that path, and that is where templates are stored. When you get there, we're going to paste the embedded code report that we did, and we're going to rename it long date format. So notice in here, you have dataset, data source, report. When we right click on the report folder and we hover over add and we choose new item, that's the things that we're seeing in that screen. That's where the templates are held for Visual Studio. So now I'm going to go back to Visual Studio. So I've gotten into this habit whenever I save a template. When I come back over to Visual Studio, I close and relaunch it. And the reason why is a lot of times the template won't show up in the correct way. It is a known glitch, but so we're going to close this instance, our Sales Information VS project of Visual Studio, and then just relaunch the application and reopen the project from the opening screen. When it's open now, we're going to right-click on our Reports folder in Solution Explorer, hover over Add, choose New Item, and you will see your long date format. Now, if we hadn't closed Visual Studio and relaunched it, the icon that indicates a report wouldn't be there. It's just a blank, and that means it's not going to work. So I don't know why that is happening, but now I'm just in the habit of doing this. So we're going to actually use this template. So click on your template, and we'll name this report Order Information, and then Add. Now that we created the template, right, we really don't need the embedded code report. So I'm going to right click on embedded code in the Solution Explorer, and I'm going to delete it. Okay, so now we're going to actually build a table report here, and we'll reference our function, our long date format function. The code is already here. We can check and see. If you right click in the blank area, go to report properties, go to the code window, the code is in there because it was in the template. So let's insert a table here. We're going to name our data set code example. And we're going to use our shared data set and click OK. And let's drag the table. You know what to do here, and widen it. And in Report Data pane, expand your data set. And we're going to right click and view our grouping pane. So we're going to drag order date from our data set down to the grouping pane and drop it above details in row groups. We're going to drag order ID underneath order date in row groups. And then into the table, we're going to drag quantity and transaction amount. Now we're going to do an expression that references our code, our long date format code. So we're going to right click order date in the table, the detail row, and we're going to go to expression. And after the equal sign, you're going to leave that field's order date value there. After the equal sign here, you're going to type code dot long date format, and then enclose the fields in parentheses. And we're going to click OK. Now we're going to right click the order date expression, and we're going to hover over add total and choose after. And we're going to add the word grand in front of total. Then we're going to right click the order ID in the detail cell, add total after, and we're going to put the word daily in front of that total. I'm going to format all three of my transaction amounts as currency. So by right clicking text box property, we've done this before. So you have to do it for each one, so they're all the same way. Let's make daily total bold. And we're going to format the grand total row with a blue background of your choice, white 12-point bold font. So blue background of your choice. Make the font white 12-point and bold. And I'm going to do the same formatting on the header row. Let's add a page header section and insert a text box into it. And we are going to move that text box accordingly and widen it. And we're going to right click in the text box. You get it in there right. And we're going to go to expression. So we already have our equal sign here. We're going to just do it in the expression. And we're going to do code.long date format. And then an open parenthesis. We're going to double click our built-in fields and we're going to choose execution time again and close the parenthesis. And now click OK. We can get rid of that extra white space, not necessary. I'm going to get rid of the extra white space underneath the report as well. Go ahead and preview your report. Because that code was built into the report definition in the template, we're able to just reference it as many times as we want in the report to apply it to various date fields via expressions like we did in the text box, or attaching it to that order date field like we did. If we had more date fields that we wanted formatted that way, we could do the same thing. So you can see how you can reuse code easily. We didn't have to go back over to the class library and copy the code and paste it into the report definition. We saved the embedded code report as a template. You can go back to Design View and save. Our second lesson here is extending reporting services by creating custom assemblies. So this is another way of including custom code in your reports, and it's created using the Microsoft.NET framework that you can reference from within your report definition files. The way it works is the server calls the functions in your custom assemblies when a report is run. Custom assemblies can be used to retrieve specialized functions that you plan to use in multiple reports. It's basically a custom function library that is available to every new report project created. Custom assemblies allow for consistent code reuse and simplified maintenance of standard code across multiple reports and projects. Once the steps are completed, the DLL, Dynamic Link Library file, must be deployed to the report server bin directory along with the Windows assembly directory on the reports. Finally, in the report itself, a reference must be added for the assembly, and then at last, the assembly functions can be used and referenced within the report. Unlike embedded code in SSRS, custom assembly code can be written in Visual Basic, C#, C++, and others. We're going to be working in our class library project that we created in a separate instance of Visual Studio. And what we're going to do here is we're going to modify our function to start with so that it is available in a lot of different instances. So what we're going to do is we're going to click in front of the word function, and we're going to type the keyword public space and then the keyword shared. The public keyword makes it available outside of the class module that it's created in. Now notice when we started in here, when we first created this project, it made the class public by default. So the class itself is already public. We're making the function public as well. And then a shared keyword means you can access it without referencing the class. So this is setting it up to be able to be utilized in a custom assembly. Now let's say you're going to have lots of custom code, and some of it you want in Visual Basic, and others you might want in, I'll say, C#, for example. So you would have two choices here, right? If you wanted to create code in C#, you'd have to use a new class library that supports that language. The one that we chose supports Visual Basic. You could create another project, or you could create another project within this one for your C# code. So that way you could have one class library with two different projects that support two different languages, all in the same solution file, if you will. So I'm going to show you how you would set that up. We'll go with the choice where you're going to create a new project within this one. So we're going to right click on the top of Solution Explorer, right click on Solution Custom Code VB. We're going to hover over Add, and we're going to choose New Project. So we already searched for class library, so I'm going to go back to the search for class library. And so the last time we chose the class library.net framework for Visual Basic. Right above it in my list is the class library.net framework for C#. Let's select that one and choose Next. And we're going to call this project Custom Code C#. And it won't let us put the sharp in. So we're going to spell it out. Yeah, there's all those characters that you can't use in names here. And we're going to go ahead and click Create. So now you have two different projects within the same solution. You have your custom code C#. And notice it's on the class 1.cs for C# here, right? We could have done CS there in the name. And then you still have your tab open for class 1 for Visual Basic. If we wanted to rename the project from custom code C# to custom code CS, we could right click on it in Solution Explorer and go to rename. And we could make that change there. We can also collapse that if we're not using it. So imagine you had multiple languages. You could have a different project for each of them in the same solution. So all of your custom code is in the same space. We're not going to be using C#. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on Custom Code CS. And this time we're going to remove it. And you're going to say OK. The other thing I typically do in a class library is I rename my classes. So in Solution Explorer, you can expand VB class1.vb. Then you have your class 1. And we're going to rename our class. We're going to right click on class 1 VB and go to rename. And we're going to name this functions date and press enter. So you're renaming a file. Would you also like to perform a rename in this project of all references to the code element class 1? Yes, I do. So I don't have to do it manually. So now if you look, it says public class functions date. Instead of class1.vb, we also have that functions date up here. I would do a naming convention like that with the common word first. So if I were going to have text functions, right, I would have another class and call it functions text. So I can continue to add more date functions in this functions date class. And then if I had text functions or other functions, I can have them separate in all of their classes as well. And that would look like this. We're going to right click on custom code VB, hover over add, and we're going to choose class. So we're going to name this class functions text and add it. So now you can see we have our two classes there appropriately named. Conversely, delete a class, just right click on functions text and choose delete. And now we'd like to save. And actually, let's close our functions date tab and then we can save all. The next thing we have to do is generate a DLL, which can be referenced in our report server project. So in Solution Explorer, we're going to right click on custom code VB. And to generate a DLL, we have to build the project. So go ahead and click on build on the list. You get an output window at the bottom, and it lets me know that my build succeeded. I'm going to go ahead and close that output window. Now we're going to find the DLL. So we're going to right click on our custom code VB again. And this time we're going to go down to properties. On the left side of properties, we're going to click on compile. And you'll see your build output path. So it's putting it in the bin file, and then there's a debug folder. The good news is we don't have to navigate through Windows Explorer to be able to get to this file folder. So what we're going to do here is we can go ahead and close this custom code VB properties tab. We're going to right click on custom code VB again. And then we're going to say open folder in File Explorer. In my version, it's the third one from the bottom. So we have to just double click the bin folder and then the debug folder, and then we'll see our DLL, our dynamic link library file. We need to copy that file, and we're going to end up pasting it in two different locations. The first location we're going to paste the DLL file into is the one for debugging and testing in Report Designer. And so you can follow the path that I have in my address bar to get to the private Assemblies folder, and then you're going to paste our DLL in there. And so I can see it's already in there. And now we have a second location that we're going to paste to, and I will bring up that path for you as well. So you can follow the path here in this address bar. And when you get into the bin folder for the report server, we're going to paste it into there. So that is the setup for a custom assembly. And now we're going to get ready to test it. We are going to test our custom assembly in our sales information VS solution. So our other instance of Visual Studio. And what we're going to do is we're going to just add a new report. So I'm going to right click on the reports folder, hover over add, choose new item. We're going to use the default report template, and we're going to name this report Custom Assemblies. We're going to right click in a blank area and go to Report Properties. And on the left this time, we're going to go to References. And this is where you can add or remove assemblies and or classes. We're going to choose Add. And then we're going to click on the ellipsis button to the right. Sometimes it takes a while to load the .NET references here. Once they're loaded, we're going to go to the Browse tab. And notice for me, it's still in the Private Assemblies folder. So if you're not in the Private Assemblies folder, you can use the drop down to navigate your way there. And so you can see it's C all the way down to Private Assemblies if you need to get your way there. And once you're there, you should be able to see your custom code VB DLL in the list and double click it. Now let's say we also had a C# library in our other solution, in the class library solution. We could add an assembly for that here as well. So if you need to reference more than one assembly at a time, you can. And we are going to click OK at the bottom. We're going to add a text box, insert a text box for our report. I'm going to just make it a little bit wider. And we're going to right click in it and choose Expression. Now, when you're doing an expression for a custom assembly, you have to use what's called a fully qualified reference. It includes the namespace, also known as the project name. And then you're going to have to use the dot notation and have the class name minus the .vb on it. And then another dot notation and the name of your function. So what I'm going to do, and you don't have to do this, I'm going to just switch back over to the class library. So that means our project is custom code VB. Our class is functions date. We don't need the .vb there. And then if I expand that folder, my function is long date format. And we have to pass a date to it as an argument. So we're going to make reference to this assembly now. So after equals, you're going to type custom code VB and then a dot notation. Functions, plural, date, dot, long date format, and then an open parenthesis. So we have to give it a date as an argument. We'll use another built-in field. So double click built-in fields and just choose execution time. And then scroll to the right and do a closing parenthesis. Click OK. And go ahead and preview your report. So now you are getting the long date format via a public shared custom assembly that can be referenced using a fully qualified reference in any report that you choose to use it in. So you learned that you could also save a report that has embedded code in it as a template. And that's great, but this gives you more flexibility because you can have an enormous amount of custom assemblies that can be accessed from the References tab. Let's go ahead and go back to Design View. We're going to save and close our Custom Assemblies report. And we're going to redeploy this solution. So I'm going to right click on solution and deploy solution. In Module 9, we covered extending reporting services by utilizing expressions and embedded code, and expressions that reference embedded code, and then extending reporting services with custom assemblies. So we had been using expressions throughout the course, but then we got to do embedded code. We did simple Visual Basic code. And again, embedded code has to be in Visual Basic code. And we were able to see that. We were also able to save a report with embedded code as a template so that you can reuse it over and over again and just have to create an expression to reference the embedded code. We moved on to modifying our Visual Basic code so that it was public and shared, and which in effect turned it into a custom assembly. Once we did that, we had to locate the DLL file and copy it to 2 locations. And we were able to test our custom assembly and learned that in a class library project, you can have multiple projects within the same project. So you could have a Visual Basic project, you can have a C# project, so on and so forth. And when you add the custom assemblies into report properties, you can add multiple assemblies at the same time using different languages. And then you actually can just call the assemblies by using a fully qualified reference in an expression and making sure to pass any required arguments to it. Custom assemblies actually give you more flexibility than saving embedded code in a report template, because you can use existing reports and go ahead and add the custom assemblies to it and use those functions in them as well. Before we get into our next module, I want to spend a few moments just cleaning up a little bit in SSRS. The first thing I have to do is swap out this brand package. I can't take it a moment longer. So I'm going to go to the gear and go to Site Settings, Branding, and I'm going to remove that brand package and confirm the removal. And I'll just leave it on the default one. And then I'm going to go back home to the home page. Now, this is where it's been putting everything that we've been recently deploying out of Visual Studio. So if I click on this sales information folder, it has all of the reports on it. So let's go back to home, go back into SSRS video course folder, and I'm going to delete this data sources folder, VS. I'm also going to delete Datasets, VS. And I'm going to delete sales information VS, because when I look in it, it only has 3 of the reports. So I'm going to delete that as well. And then I'm going to go back home and I'm going to move data sources into SSRS video course folder. Do the same with Datasets. And with sales information VS. So now we have all of our stuff in, all organized for our course. Before we begin Module 10, I just want to point out that this is where you will need to have the SQL Server Mobile Report Publisher installed. And that link to download it is in the Software Requirements Word document in the video description. You may also want to download the Power BI mobile app onto your mobile device, as that's the vehicle you'll use on your mobile devices to access your mobile reports. This module introduces the design and publication of reports that are intended for consumption on mobile devices, such as smartphones or tablets. SSRS includes support for mobile reports, although, as you now know, the tools that are used to design and publish mobile reports are different than the tools used for paginated reports discussed in the earlier modules of this course. So modules 10 and our last module, module 11, both are dealing with mobile reports. In this module, we're going to do an overview of mobile reports in the first lesson. The second lesson is all about how to prepare your data for mobile reports. And in the third lesson, you'll get an overview of the mobile report publisher. With the mobile report publisher, you can quickly create reporting services mobile reports optimized for mobile devices and a variety of other form factors. Mobile reports feature an assortment of visualizations from time, category, and comparison charts to tree maps and custom maps. You can connect your mobile reports to a range of data sources, including on-premises SQL Server and analysis services data. You're going to end up laying out your mobile reports on a design surface with adjusting grid rows and columns and flexible mobile report elements that scale well to any screen size. You'll then save these mobile reports to a reporting services server and view and interact with them in a browser or in the Power BI mobile app on iPads, iPhones, Android phones and tablets, and Windows devices. If you like, at this time, you can go ahead and close out of Visual Studio and Report Builder, as we can't use those apps to create mobile reports. We're going to get started in SSMS by locating and copying the mobile query. Now, there are two mobile queries in here. There's mobile query and mobile query by year. You'll be accessing the one with by year shortly. But for right now, we want to locate mobile query and select and copy it to your clipboard. And then we're going to switch over to SSRS. We're going to be creating a new data set by going to the new drop-down and choosing Dataset, and go ahead and open Report Builder. We're going to use our regular shared sales information data source and go ahead and click Create. On the ribbon, you're going to select the Edit as Text icon and paste your mobile query in. And go ahead and run the query by using the red exclamation mark. So you can see it has total transactions by order date and also by order year, or it displays the year of the order date as well. We can go ahead and save this data set. We want to put it in the SSRS video course folder. And we're going to call it Mobile Data. And save. And you can close it. You can go ahead and get rid of that We're Opening Report Builder pop-up. And you may have to refresh your screen in order to see the data set. And when you do refresh, you'll see your data set. Now that we've created our mobile data set, I'm going to give you a challenge and have you create another one based on a different query on your own. So the query that you're going to want to grab in Management Studio is the mobile data by year query. You go ahead and copy that onto your clipboard. And then you're going to come back here and use your new drop down and select Dataset. Navigate to Report Builder. And you're still going to be using the shared data source. So go on and complete creating that data set and name it Mobile Data by Year. When you're done with it, you can resume the video. And when you're done, we're going to click on the Mobile Data by Year tile. And up at the top, we're going to select Edit and Report Builder. And go ahead and reopen Report Builder. And let's run it from within here. So notice how the years are not in order. We're going to add to this query underneath your Group By clause. You're going to type order by and then year. And now run it again. So the order by is the sorting clause, and now the years are in order. We're going to save it so that that sort is saved, and we're going to close it. And then you can go back using the breadcrumb trail to your SSRS video course folder. Now we're going to tour the mobile report publisher before designing our mobile reports. So I'm going to access it from the search box, and I'm going to just type mobile, and it comes up on the list, and I'm going to launch it. So when it launches, I'm going to give you a tour of the interface, and we'll start at the top where it has a title bar. And to the left of the title bar, you have several new icons. So it opens with like a blank mobile report, just kind of like when you open Word, you get a blank document. But if you wanted to create a new one from within here, you can start by doing that first icon. Then you can open a mobile report, save, and save as. You also have a server connections icon up there on the left. Underneath that, and I'm going to be in the main body of the screen, you can name your mobile report from where it says New Mobile Report. And to the right, it lets you know how many grid rows and grid columns it is showing. In my case, it's 5 rows and 10 columns. To the right of that, there's a drop down, and you can see the 3 views. We, by default, are in master view. This is normally where you want to do your design work. The next view I'm going to select is tablet. Notice the grid is not as wide. And I'm going to go back and select phone. And you can see what that phone grid looks like. We're going to go back to the drop down and select master. Now to the right of the view drop down, you have a color palette drop down that you can access to apply some coloration to your reports. On the left side, you have a panel that has 4 tabs. By default, you come in here on the layout tab, and this is where all of your graphics are located, your charts, and they're in different groupings. So it starts with Navigators, and then Gauges. Charts group comes next as I scroll down, and then I'll see the Maps group and Data Grids group. So these are the types of visualizations that you can use to graphically represent your data in a mobile report. The next tab is the Data tab, which is not really populated right now. When we're building our report, we'll be coming to this tab, and you'll see on the upper right corner, there's 3 icons. This is where you can add data so you can connect it to your data source, refresh all the data, or export all the data. And you'll see this, what it looks like when it's populated, in just a bit. The Settings tab, you can title your report from here. You can select your 3-letter currency code. the start of your fiscal year, the first day of the week, and the effective date applies to time navigators and time charts. So if it's not set, the current date is used. So you can put in a date that's not today in order to make it the effective date for a time navigator or chart. And finally, at the bottom, it has a check mark for enabling client data caching. And then you have the preview tab, which is where you go to view your report once it's designed. So I've closed my instance of the mobile report publisher and come back to SSRS because there's another way that you can launch it, just like another way you can launch Report Builder. So this time, we're going to use our new drop-down and choose Mobile Report, and we'll let it open the publisher for us. And so we're going to start by jumping into Module 11, where we're going to design our mobile reports. And before we do so, we want to make sure that we have our right server connection. So the last icon up here on a little toolbar, Server Connections, I'm checking, and it looks like I'm going to click on Edit so I can see the full thing. And I am on the one that I need to be on. If you're not, you can either add a new one or, like we're doing right now, edit the existing one. And then you would choose Connect. We're going to start by adding our first visualization to this report grid. And underneath Charts in the Layout tab, the first one is a time chart. I'm going to click and hold on it and drag it up to the upper left grid box. And a couple of things happened when we did that. First, at the bottom of your screen, a Visual Properties panel opened for that time chart. Secondly, if you look, and this is really more attached to the grid, the gear, you'll notice when I'm on any of the grid boxes, the gear is there. And from that gear, I can delete, cut, copy, paste, redo, and undo. So the first thing we're going to do is resize this visualization. I'm going to use the bottom right-hand corner, click and hold, and I want it to be 3 columns wide and 3 rows tall. Now, if you take a look at the values and the years in that preview of the chart, you'll notice that they are not connected to our data set. In Wide World Importers, we go from January 1st, 2013 to May 31st, 2016. So this is simulated table data because we haven't connected it to our data set yet. We're going to do that now. Let's go over to the Data tab. Now on the Data tab, you'll see the report elements. We only have one, our time chart. And we'll see what's known as a simulated table of data. And if you look down at the bottom in the Data Properties pane, you're only seeing one tab, and that's for the simulated table, because we haven't yet connected it to our data set. So what we're going to do in the upper right-hand corner is we're going to add data. And you can add data for a mobile report from Excel directly or from Report Server. In our case, we're going to choose Report Server. So now you're going to select the server, and you're going to select your folder, and we're going to grab our mobile data set. So now, if you look at the bottom of your screen in the Data Properties section first, you'll notice you have 2 tabs, one for simulated data and one for your mobile data. And that's the one that it's on, and it's showing data from our data set. To the right of the mobile data tab, you have that same gear, so you can remove it, so on and so forth. You even have the ability to export it to Excel from there if you wanted to. Now, let's go back to the Layout tab for a moment, and you'll notice that the values and the years have not changed, even though we've just connected to our dataset. So let's head back to the Data tab to address that. And we're going to address it in the Data Properties pane. So where it says Main Series, it's still on the simulated table. We're going to select the drop-down and choose Mobile Data. And now we can go back to Layout View, and now you'll see that the time chart has updated using the data from our data set. So now we're going to change the chart title from Time Chart 1. And just so you know, it's not really a text box placeholder that you can get into, and you could literally click until the cows come home. Down here is where you can change the title in the visual properties. So we're going to call it All Sales. Now we're going to select the number gauge visualization, and we're going to place it in the grid underneath our time chart. And we're going to expand it so it's 3 columns wide and 2 rows tall. We're going to change the title to All Sales. And we're going to go over to the number format visual property and change it to currency with decimals. Now we're going to scroll to the top in our layout pane, and we're going to grab the Time Navigator and drop it to the right of the time chart. We're going to expand it to the right by 2 rows. Now we're going to add a chart data grid. So I'm going to scroll to the bottom in the layout pane to the data grid section, and I'm going to grab the chart data grid and drag it underneath the Time Navigator. And I'm expanding it to be 3 columns wide and 4 rows tall. And now we're going to go down and change the title of the chart data grid in visual properties. And it's going to be Sales by Order Date. Now over to the right, you'll see a row numbers property, and we're going to do the drop down and select Hide. So if you want, you can do the drop down and select Show, and it adds row numbers. We don't want them to show at all, so we're going to set it to Hide. And we're going to go to the dataset via the Data tab, and we want to make sure that we select both. So we have data for the grid view and reference data for the chart visualizations. We want both of those to be mobile data. If you look to the right, you'll see a data grid column section. And from here, you can change the order of the columns in the data grid. You can add another column, add a chart column, so on and so forth. We want the order year to be in the first position. So in front of it, that gray box, I'm going to put my mouse on it and just drag order year up above order date. And then we'll have order year, order date, and total transaction amount in that order. Now at this point, let's go ahead and go to preview and see where we are with our report. So the cool thing about the Time Navigator is this. In the Time Navigator, if I click on 2013, the other chart's updated to just show me 2013. If I go back to the left of the Navigator and click on All, everything goes back to All. Pretty cool. So Time Navigators are really cool. And it doesn't seem to be working on the order year column here, maybe because of it's how that is formatted. But let's do the back arrow to the left of New Mobile Report to get out of preview. So back on the bottom of the Data tab in the Data Properties group, we're going to go over to the right where it has the Data Grid columns, and we're going to choose the Options button next to Order Year. And you'll notice it has a string format of General. We're going to do the drop down there, and at the very bottom, we're going to select None. And we're going to choose Done. Now, if we go back to Layout View, we'll see that the order year is now in the appropriate format. Now that we fixed the format on the order year, I can tell you that that is still not going to resolve the issue with it not responding to the Time Navigator. Let's go back to Preview. And in your Time Navigator, click on 2015. Now you'll notice that all of the reports kind of updated, right? But the problem with the grid is this. Let's go back. And we need to go back to the Data tab for that grid. And I'm going to go back to Layout View, and I'm going to name this New Mobile Report. I'm just going to call it All Sales Report. Let's apply a theme to this. So in the upper right-hand corner, the last button, choose a theme that you can live with. I think I'll go with the spa theme. And you see how it impacts your report. Now, we're going to create two more views, a phone and a tablet view. So we're going to go to the View drop-down and select Tablet. Now on the left, you'll see all the report elements, and you have to place them on the tablet grid. This is what my phone view would look like. And now I'm going to go back to Master View. And it's time for us to save this report to the report server. So go ahead and choose your save icon at the top. So you can save mobile reports locally or to the server. We're going to choose Save to Server. So it's going to save it to the root, to the home of my server. And under Location, I'm going to choose Browse and choose SSRS Video Course. And we're just going to leave it out there in that folder. So we're going to select Choose Folder and then Save. So now that we've published our mobile report to the report server, you'll see there's a category, Mobile Reports, and there's your report. Now, it can be accessed by clicking on it from the browser, but typically it's going to be accessed from a mobile device, a phone or a tablet. So let's go back to the SSRS Video Course folder using the breadcrumb trail, and you'll see what it would look like in your Power BI mobile app in just a little while. But for right now, we're going to add another component. When you view mobile reports in the Power BI mobile app on your mobile device, you can view mobile reports as well as KPIs. So we're going to create a KPI. We're going to start in Management Studio, where we're going to construct a very short query to extract data from a table that we're going to use as our data set for our KPI. So if you're not familiar with SQL queries, I'll walk you through this and explain it as we go. The first thing we're going to do is look at the entire contents of the table to get familiar with what we're looking for. And we're going to do Control and the letter N to open a new query window. And you're going to type select. So the select keyword is typically used to describe which fields you want shown in your query results. We want to see all of the fields from a particular table. So we're going to type an asterisk, which represents all fields. Then we're going to type the keyword from, which is used to indicate which table you want to see all of the fields from. So we have a table that starts with the word sales, and as soon as I start typing that, it shows up on the list, so I can just grab it from the list. And then it's followed by a dot. So there are several tables in this database that start with the word sales, followed by the dot notation. And the table we're interested in is the sales.customer transactions table. So I'm just using my down arrow to highlight it, and I can tab it in. And now I can press F5 to execute the query, and we're seeing everything that's in the sales.customer transactions table in our results. So in the results list, the fields that we're going to be interested in for our KPI data set are going to be the amount excluding tax field. And let me highlight that one for you in the data set. And we're also going to be interested in the transaction date field. Now, there are two other fields that we want in the results for the KPI that are not included in this table result. And you'll see how that works when we build the query. So remember, 2016 is the year in the database that only has data for 5 months. And we're going to base our KPI off of that. And so we specifically are going to want the year of the transaction date. We're also going to want to extract the month of the transaction date as well in this. So we're going to want the sum of the amount excluding tax and both the year and the month of the transaction date, as well as two other fields that are not included in the table for our KPI. So now we're ready to write the query with the specific fields that we want and add the two fields that are not in the result set here. And so we're going to do what's called commenting out that select all statement. So you can keep it in here and it will not execute when we run the query that we're getting ready to write. So I'm going to click in front of the word select and type a double dash. And notice how it turns the whole line green, which means it's a comment line. And at the end of it, I can type a description so you can remember what it's doing. It is selecting, I'll just do a dash there, selecting all fields in a specific table. And then I'm going to press enter. So now we're going to type the keyword select. Now, typically when I have multiple fields that I want selected, I like to type the from statement first before I list the fields. And that way, when I'm typing the field list, the field will show and I don't have to type the whole thing. So a great way to avoid typos. So I'm going to press enter and type from. And the table, same reference we used before. It starts with the word sales, which shows up on the list. You have the dot notation, and you can pick customer transactions from the list. And then we're going to go up to the select line and type a space after select. So we want the sum of the amount excluding tax. So we're going to use the sum aggregate and then an open parenthesis. Now, this is a little trick as well. If I start typing amount excluding tax, it's not showing up on the list. However, if I close the parenthesis and then go back in between it and I start typing, Then I get my field list. And I'm going to press the End key to get out of the closing parenthesis. So we want the sum of the amount excluding tax. And because if we don't give it an alias as the column name, it would just give us the sum and the column name would be blank. So we're going to give it an alias by using the as keyword. And we're going to just call it total sales, all mushed together. If you're doing aliases with multiple words with spaces in between, they need to be enclosed in single quotes. And now we're going to press enter. We're going to type a comma because we're ready for our next field here. I usually put the comma at the beginning of the line. So if I have to delete something, I don't have a comma just hanging out there that could cause me an error. People do their coding any way they want to, but this is just how I do it. So the next line, we want to extract the year of the transaction date field. So I'm going to type the year function and it will show up on the list. And then in parentheses, and I'm going to type an open and closing one and then go in between them and start typing transaction date and you will see it on your list. Come outside of the parenthesis. And we're going to give that an alias as well. So we're going to use the as keyword. And we're going to just call it transaction year. And enter. Now we're going to pull the month of the transaction date. So comma and the month function. And we're going to do the same field, transaction date. So you can get that in there. And make sure you're outside of the closing paren. And you're going to type as transaction month. So we're just giving column headings here for the parts of the date that we are extracting. We're going to press enter at the end of that line and another comma. And so we're going to type the number 1 as, and we're going to name it KPI status. So this is a field that we're including in the results that does not appear in this table. So we're kind of creating it just for this query. And so we're going to press enter and we have our next comma and we're going to type 50 million, no punctuation, as KPI goal. So KPI, key performance indicator, allows you to measure where you are with where you want to be. And so we added 2 fields that are not included in this table that we don't want included in the table. We just want them in the query. And that is the KPI status and KPI goal fields. Now we need to come underneath the from line so we can finish this up. So we want to apply a filter, right? So this data from this table goes from January 1st, 2013 through May 31st, 2016. We're only interested in the 2016 data. So we're going to use the where keyword as a filter, and then we're going to type year, the year function, and in parentheses, you're going to get in transaction date again, and come outside the parenthesis. And then you're going to type equals 2016. So we're only interested in the results from 2016. Enter. Then we're going to use the group by clause. And I'll explain this after we get this one in. So group by, and we're going to use year transaction date again. Now at this point, you can go up to your select statement and select year transaction date. We don't need the as piece the alias declaration, and you can copy it and then paste it after group by. And then you're going to type a comma, and you can go up to your select statement and grab month transaction date, copy that, and paste it after the comma in the group by line. So we want the organization of this data to be by year and by month. And we have one more line. We want to sort it. So we're going to use the order by clause underneath the group by clause. And go ahead, and it's still on your clipboard, paste the month of the transaction date there. So we want it in order by month, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's only 5 months that we have of data in 2016. So now you can press F5 to execute this query, and you'll see the total sales, the transaction year, which are all 2016, transaction month, KPI status, and goal are the same as the values we assign to them in the select statement for each record. And we're going to go ahead and save this query. So I'm going to right click on the tab and choose Save SQL Query 6. I'm going to navigate to my code snippets, and I'm going to put it in here where my other code snippets from the Word document ended up when we saved them. And we're going to call this KPI Query. In SSMS, we're going to go ahead and select our KPI query. So we don't need to select the commented outline at the top, and then copy it to your clipboard. And then we're going to go over to the web portal. So from the portal, go ahead and create a new data set and name it KPI 2016. So we're going to create a key performance indicator that's going to communicate the amount of progress we made toward our goal. And our goal we set was 50 million for 2016. Key performance indicators are very valuable. They allow you to evaluate quickly the progress made against measurable goals and give you time in some instances to readjust your strategy so you can meet those goals in the future. We're going to go to our new drop down in the portal, and we're going to select KPI. The first thing you're going to notice is there's a preview. There's some manually set values, static values that are in here. And the preview is currently based on that. It will update as we start managing the build of our KPI. And we're going to name this 2016 KPI. And on the right side, we're going to start with the value field. So instead of set manually, which is the default, we're going to use a dataset field. You're going to do the ellipsis, navigate to the folder, and pick your KPI 2016 data set. And we want to use the total sales field here, so I'm going to do that option button. Now notice the aggregation is set to first. We actually want a sum of total sales for this field. So I'm going to do the drop down to the right of first and choose the sum aggregation and click OK. So notice it populates, right, with the name of the data set and the field with that dot notation. And also you'll see that the preview has updated as well. So now we're going to set the goal, and that's used as a comparison and shown as a % difference. And we're also going to use a data set field for that. So we're going to go ahead and select the drop down data set field. We're going to do the ellipsis, navigate to our KPI 2016 data set. And the KPI goal is the one that we're going to use. Now that's a field that's not in the database, but we created it just for the query. And we only need to use the first one. It's the same number repeating. We certainly don't want it to do any kind of sum or average on that. So we're going to leave the aggregation to first, and we're going to click OK. The next one is the status. We're going to use a dataset field. And the status is a numerical value used to determine the tile color in the KPI. Valid values are 1, which is green, 0, amber, and -1, which would be red. And we're going to use a dataset field, so we're going to navigate to our dataset. And KPI status is the field that we also created that's not in the database. And we're going to leave that on the first aggregation as well because it's just repeating the same number. Click OK. Now we have our trend set. These are comma-separated numeric values or semicolon-separated numeric values used for chart visualization. So we have values in our data set that represent the trend. So we're going to go to Dataset Trend and the ellipsis, make your way to your data set, and we're going to use total sales again. Now notice there's not an aggregation at the top. It's going to review each line item total sale, which is what we need it to do. And we'll click OK. So if you look at our preview, you'll notice that the number is so large that it's kind of cutting off. So at the very top on the right, you're going to go to the General drop-down under Value Format and choose Abbreviated. So now you can see the abbreviated number, 22.6 million, and it's at -55% of where we need to be. But again, this is only reviewing 5 months of the year. Now down at the bottom, you have your different visualization types. I'm going to leave it on the bar chart. And underneath that, you have related content. Let's do that drop down. So you can relate it to a custom URL or to a mobile report. If you relate it to a custom URL, when a user clicks on the KPI, it will take them to that URL. The same for a mobile report. Let's choose mobile report, and you're going to choose your all sales report. So let's imagine we're in 2016 and we're in May. Well, actually, we're almost at the end of June. As soon as the June information is entered into the database, your KPI will automatically update just like everything else. It will automatically refresh. So we're going to go ahead and click Create. And now we have a category called KPIs, and there's our KPI. Because we listed our mobile report as related content for our KPI, if we click on our KPI in the browser, right, we'll notice that at the bottom, it's showing a thumbnail of the mobile report. And if we click on that thumbnail, it will show the mobile report. And it works that way on the Power BI mobile app on your mobile device as well. So back in Module 7, we registered with Power BI. Well, I showed you how you could register with Power BI and Report Server Configuration Manager so that you have some functionality between the two. And that would give you the ability to see Power BI reports here in SSRS Web Portal. Well, there's another step to that to be effective. If you go to the gear in the upper right-hand corner and you go to My Settings, this is where individual users can sign into their individual Power BI accounts so that they'll be able to pin paginated report items from here to their Power BI dashboards. So your end users can sign into their own accounts by using My Settings here in the browser. So what I have here is a slide that points you to a step-by-step guide on how to access your SSRS mobile reports on a mobile device. So your tablet or your phone. And it's using that Power BI mobile app. And so it will give you how to connect to the server, the article here that you can be connected to up to 5 report servers at the same time. And you'll be able to see your mobile reports and your KPIs in the mobile app. So what we're going to do here is show you a screenshot of what it would look like if you were viewing it on your phone. So here's just an example of where you would see your KPIs, your mobile reports from on your phone. And if you've related your KPIs to certain mobile reports, once you click on the KPI on your mobile device, you can also access the mobile report on your device, just like you can in the browser. So we've completed the course, and I've ran Module 10 and 11 together, so I'm going to just review what we recently covered. Module 10 was your introduction to mobile reports. You got an overview of mobile reports. We prepared some data for mobile reports, so we created a data set. And you got a tour of the mobile report publisher interface. In Module 11, we developed mobile reports. So we designed a mobile report, we published it, and we accessed it in the web portal. And then we went ahead and created a KPI, but before that, you actually got to create a SQL query for the data set that we use for the KPI. Once we had both created and related to each other, you saw that you were able to select the KPI and see a thumbnail of the mobile report and actually access the mobile report from that thumbnail. Thank you for attending the SSRS video course. In conclusion, what did we cover? In Module 9, we got to extend reporting services by utilizing expressions and embedded code. And then we actually created a class library project where we could store our reusable code, gave our code some minor modifications that made it appropriate to use as a custom assembly, and then we created and used our custom assembly. In Module 10, you were introduced to mobile reports. You had an overview of mobile reports. And then we prepared data for mobile reports by creating our data set. And you got an overview of the mobile report publisher interface. In our last module, we designed, published, and accessed our mobile reports. Well, at least we were able to, during the class, access it in SSRS, but you can also access it from your Power BI app on your mobile device.